The Masters. Perfection in San Antonio. Who's in Utah? Six more is all we ask. And the Warriors are doing their part. It's all coming up next on Tip Off. Bubba golf. Over the trees, out of the woods. What sports is all about. Boom. Boom. Good morning. How are you? Back in Salt Lake City after a quick little jaunt. Jazz gets smoked last night, but let's talk the Masters to start. That is what sports is all about. The unexpected, the unconventional, the say they couldn't happen, the out of the box, the true heartfelt emotion, the loose cannon that gets overwhelmed by the moment. If anyone's a parent, the idea of seeing your kid pull that off and the turn of generations as Bubba's father had passed and now he has a new son he just adopted. Just awesome. Good competition, great event. I'll admit, for me personally, I'm always a little sour that we like the Masters as much as we do because I kind of feel like in 2012 we should be beyond some of the things the Masters stands for, but we're not. I always have to get that out there just as my caveat. Then move on and completely ignore it and talk about the event. I thought for Phil, I watched a great deal of this. That had the chance to be a really big day. I may be wrong on my golf history here, but as Tiger kind of swoons, and we can touch on that in a second. I feel as though Phil's on the verge of redefining one more time who he is. That there's another stop in the pecking order up the ladder that he can take. Um, where if he goes and gets a fourth green jacket, he's no longer overwhelmed by Tiger when we remember this era as the other guy. Tiger becomes more of a flash in the pan. That's not the right phrase. But Tiger becomes more of a phenomena for a period of time, while Phil is going to have the longevity of the period. So Phil had a chance. I've decided, by the way, that I don't love Phil, but I really think Jim Nance's love affair with Phil is what has me occasionally rooting against Phil. I don't know if that's fair. And I'm sure Jim Nance would deny that because every announcer denies that they have a bias, but it feels that way when I watch them, as though Jim Nance just has this Phil thing, like he just was about to cry during that meltdown. Bubba Watson, if Bagley tipped me off to Bubba Watson 3 years ago with his YouTube videos and his hitting a watermelon and trick shots over the pool and hitting the ball out of Sanford Stadium at the University of Georgia. To me, we'll see if he can keep this. He strikes me as a little bit of John Daly, a little bit of Happy Gilmore, that he comes across as the guy we all. I mean, haven't we all? This is totally inappropriate to admit, but I think at some point all of us have gotten on a beach and hit a driver, right? Like, been found a beach, found a driver, hit it as far as we can. I've been very fortunate to play some golf in Maui, and there's this great hole on the McKenna South course, which is I think kind of shut down now, but 150-yard par three right down into on the edge of the water, so that your first ball you always hit a driver, right, and see if you can splash it in the ocean. That's what golf's all about. I know some stodgy person disagrees, but the stodginess of golf, I think Bubba Watson's yet another guy away from it. And for our next generation, that I think of the Tiger golfers, the guys like myself who got into golf because of Tiger, he's just a refreshing, neat player to follow and adds a little. And we are finally getting a new generation. It's pretty interesting. I think it's 13 straight majors with a new champion, and maybe 12 of those 13 or 13 straight championship majors with new different winners, and 12 of the 13 are first timers. So golf definitely at an interesting place. Last night the Jazz just got taken to school, and San Antonio is great. If you watch, I don't know if they'll be that great tonight. I'll get on that in a second. But if you watched last night, their system is just awesome. And Popovich should. I don't get to vote on a lot of these things. I'm kind of low on the pecking order for some reason. Despite the fact that I go see all 82. But I would say I think he's got to be my coach of the year. And maybe for perpetuity. I mean, he's got that Sloan element to him where they run a system. He coaches it better. He coaches it more detailed. If you listen to our podcast with Brent Barry earlier, he shared some of those things. I'm going to try to catch up with Mike Monroe of the San Antonio News Express today to record a podcast. A little bit more on this. I mean, there's stories about Popovich when he is going through training camp that like he'll stop training camp because a guy's a split second off his or a split inch, like an inch off his spot, move him to make sure. And literally, like they'll be running a scrimmage, stop, move a guy one step to the right. And if you watch when they come down the floor, they spot up to the exact same spots every time. We think so often about execution as coming off picks and that. Theirs is hitting spots in the floor, creating the spacing so that on penetration or going to the post, the pass is made. They make automatic passes in their system so that the ball reverses and touches both sides of the floor. And then they don't even have to look to see where their guys are. And what's so cool about it, it's really obvious on the offensive end. Like if you watch the offense, it's really obvious how in tuned and how awesome it is. Defensively, it's much harder for us to see, but it's the exact same thing. They completely trust. They have no doubt. They always get to where they're going to be. And it, at this point, doesn't matter, whether it's Tim Duncan or Boris Diaw. They all understand what they're doing. Diaw, they played last night. It started largely because he doesn't know the system entirely, so they wanted him to get used to it, and you could see occasionally where he screwed it up. But there's so many times last night where you see Jamal Tinsley had a play where he drove left and threw a pass to where he thought Burks was going to be. Burks went the other way. Burks came when a guy drives at you, you got to slide down. Burks slid up, so the pass goes the wrong way. And so the Jazz turn it over, and it's on Tinsley, but really it's on Burks. But that's just a sign of where we don't have that. We don't have that. One, we don't run that same system. Frankly, I don't know if anyone could emulate it, but I would, if I was a coach in the league, I would certainly try. They are awesome to watch and deserve huge amounts of credit. Manu is back on his game. He's not been shooting free throws this year. He shot them last night, that's for sure. The heavy rumor leaving San Antonio last night from Jazz were hearing it, then it was also reported by somebody McDonald out of the San Antonio News Express, is that with a game Wednesday against LA and Thursday against Memphis, that the big three are still in San Antonio right now. Unless somebody works at the Grand America and can tell me who checked in, I don't have that confirmed, but supposedly Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili are all in San Antonio, which would be huge for the Utah Jazz playoff quest because the Jazz need 6 wins. We have 9 games left, and what we truly need is we need 6 wins, and ideally one of them is Tuesday in Houston, but I don't know if we need to overplay that so much because Houston, and we get the tiebreaker against Houston if we get that win. Houston may have separated themselves a little bit the way they're playing as of late. If you can get San Antonio tonight, at New Orleans is no longer as easy as it was because of Eric Gordon and those guys are back, but get one of the 3 on that road trip. Beat Dallas, who will be playing the 4th game in 5 nights on Monday, and then win 3 of the final 4. Is it possible the Jazz could win the final 5 with that win at Portland in the middle? I think we're going to come down to a real chance, where the Jazz are going to have 3 home games in front of the raucous, awesome Energy Solution Arena Jazz Nation, and have to win all 3 to get into the playoffs. The Warriors did us a nice. By the way, if you look around on the scheduling, it may not feel that way. The reason I kind of feel that is there's death marches everywhere. The Rockets have one from April 15th to April 22nd. They play 6 games in 8 nights. They're at Denver, versus Denver the next day. They get a day off. They go to Dallas, then New Orleans. They have a day off. They go to They play Golden State at home, and then they go to Miami, who should be playing, uh, at a tough level at that point. Dallas, keep an eye on them. They have Tuesday at home against the Kings, and they go Thursday at Golden State, which is a huge game for the Jazz. They love the Warriors to win that one. Friday at Portland, Sunday at LA, Monday against us. That's 5 games in 7 nights in 5 cities. So both Houston and Dallas have the chance of major trip ups coming up here. The Warriors win the other night over Denver was just fabulous for the Jazz in the quest for that 9th playoff spot. The Warriors, 1 or 2 more wins, and the Jazz are going to get that pick, which seemed really rather hard to believe was possible at one point in time. Giving credit to the Warriors, they're playing right and they're playing hard. And actually, Mark Jackson, who we like to mock a lot because he earned it, has actually coached that team and is playing pretty well right now and playing good basketball and running systems, and they are not completely freelancing. They're playing appropriately for their talent. Actually, fairly impressive what they're doing with the limited amount of skills that they have. That was a terrible loss by the Nuggets the other night. I'm sure we'll have some too, but you just wonder a little bit of what's going on with Denver. Gallinari is supposed to come back at some point here, but they just don't seem completely in it. As though they don't seem to be playing as though they're in a playoff push, which is a little surprising. They're at 30 and 26. We're at 29, 28, but we do have that tiebreaker against them. Denver closes the year, though they have 7 home games and only 3 games left against above 500 teams. So you would think they should be all right. But they've been just funky this year. And with the trades and everything else, I don't think anyone really knows who they are in any way at this point. So the Warrior draft pick, which I get asked this question a lot, I think most of you probably know, it's post lottery. It's post lottery. Final thing I wanted to bring up here today, and we can have more discussions on this. And I have not always agreed with this. This is partially me maybe saying some errors here. But in regards to our 4 young guys, our 4 young players, I would say that more and more, it's looking like we've played them about right. Now, the only one I might disagree with is Favors, who I just think is going to be fabulous. He was again last night. Rare loss last night when he plays 25 minutes. But Hayward is up at 38 minutes a night, and he have worked him into the season, and he looks very comfortable out there. And he has been managed just about perfectly, I would say. He's going to do. The Jazz are actually going to do something pretty remarkable with Hayward this year. We talk a lot about 1,200 minutes, 1,800 minutes, 2,400 minutes as the 3-year progression for a player, unless it's a 1,800, 2,400, 3,200 minute progression. And let me back up if you don't follow that. What that is how many rookie year you either play. If you're kind of anything usually under a top 5 pick, and this is where Favors is the one I might just kind of still say, you usually play 1,200 your first year, 1,800 your next year, and 2,400 your third year, and then you kind of find out who you are as a player. Some would play 1,800 their first year, then 2,400 their second year, and then go to 3,200, which is 35 minutes a night. So that's LeBron. And frankly, LeBron, even jumps that a little earlier. Hayward's right on that. I think Gordon right now has played this year. It's going to end up close to the team high in minutes played. He's at 1,683. He's going to get to 1,800 after 1,200 last year. So that's pretty terrific. He was at 1,218 last year. He's going to get to 1,800. That's terrific. Burks, I would say we've played about perfectly. He's really scuffling right now, both with the shot, both defensively, how to play. He's in the doldrums. Whether it's just that play I talked about, Tinsley, I think the Jazz have been outscored by 32 points in the last 3 games where he's on the floor. Still going to the line and creating things. His 2 free throw attempts per 15 minutes is good, but his shooting percentage is at 42. But as of late, he's shooting about 30%, and he's just off. Okay, that's fine. We pushed him, gave him more time. They pushed him. They gave him more time. Now he's scuffling a little bit. He's learning. That's the whole process. And frankly, they're doing that about as well. He's not going to get to 1,200 minutes because of the shortened season, but he'd be right there. Cantor's the same thing. Cantor has kind of hit his moment where he's been played all year, gotten his time, really struggling. Jazz have been outscored 9 of the last 10 games he's on the floor. Some of those all work together. But he's at 13 minutes a night, probably sliding a little bit. A little overwhelmed at this point. Again, I think setting him up well next year, he'll be about 800, 900 minutes, which should have been 1,200, but can't do anything about the 66 game schedule. For an 1,800 minute season. So I think that's good. Now, Favors, I still think, and I watched Jefferson get tired at the end of a game. Last night when Jefferson gets tired, he just doesn't defend. He doesn't rebound anymore. Last year, Favors was at about 1,500, and he's not going to hit his 1,800. So Favors is still the one where I would say maybe that number's off. The Millsap Jefferson was a hard thing to get him through. It would have been nice if that 20 minutes a night maybe had turned out to be 25, taking a little bit more of a tighter rotation away from Millsap and Jefferson and having Derek play more because he does well. But otherwise, for all of our haranguing, complaining, and everything else, and I was involved in it. I'm not putting that on you. I'm in that too. It really is turning out pretty darn close to being worked exactly as you could hope for in this season. And it's interesting how things work themselves out. All right, that's tip-off today. Hope you're good. See it against the Spurs tonight. Tickets are available if you get a chance. Come out. Huge games at home. Let's see if we can make the playoffs and see if the Warriors can get us that pick. See ya.